Hey guys, this is Gary. The Mazda RX-7 is synonymous with its rotary engine. It was designed as a sports car, but became Mazda's supercar. This video will be on the history of the Mazda RX-7. The RX-7 was designed as Mazda's premier sports car, but used a twin-rotor Wankel rotary engine. There were previous models that used the rotary before it, such as the Capella, Savannah, Cosmo, and Lucy, but I'll only focus on the RX-7 in this video. Mazda was mostly recognized for providing rotary-powered sedans, coupes, and wagons to the USA in the 70s. The rotary engines were very popular at this time because of its simplicity, power, and affordability. They had an idea of eventually building a sports car to compete with the Datsun Z. It wasn't all rainbows and unicorns though. The oil crisis hit in 1973 and fuel mileage and reliability problems appeared, which also included oil consumption issues. Sales of their rotary engine-powered cars dropped. Mazda was still set on developing a sports car though, but now there was a lot of uncertainty because Mazda was going to introduce an unfamiliar sports car to the market with a questionable rotary engine. Sales eventually picked back up around 1977, and when it looked like it would either go down or plateau, the first generation RX-7 was introduced in 1978 with a 1.2-liter rotary engine. Its style was inspired by the Lotus Elan. Mazda used the RX-7 as a transition to their first sports car to compete with their Japanese counterparts, such as the Datsun 280Z and Toyota Celica Supra. While the rest of the world received the RX-7 model name, the Savannah name was used for this model in Japan, which they were very popular since they were taxed based on engine displacement. So smaller engines would be more affordable. Sales increased for Mazda, and RX-7s were hard to keep on showroom floors. They were more affordable than a 280Z and Porsche 924, even with a dealer markup. The benefits to a rotary engine is its compact form, light weight, smoothness, increased rev range, and it produced equivalent power to its piston engines from its 1.3-liter displacement. The front mid-engine placement is slightly behind the shock tower, providing a low center of gravity and perfect 50-50 weight distribution for its rear-wheel drive layout. Some of the other reasons that also help sales is the rotary's characteristic of revving to 7,000 RPM, which was reminiscent of race engines. The horsepower per liter was astonishing for this time. It was also very smooth, not only in power delivery, but the way the engine operated compared to engines of this era, especially V8s, which ran rough and stalled at times. The suspension consisted of a front strut and coil spring and live axle on coils in the rear. Steering was based on a recirculating ball type. The rotary motor was only considered as having 1.2 liters in displacement, which made it more affordable for Japanese owners. Power was also comparable to its piston engine competition during this time. Performance ranking the first few years with its competition, you'd have the Mazda RX-7 at first place, the Datsun 280Z in second with its comparable performance, and then the Porsche 924 in third place. The RX-7's performance advantage was its compact powerful engine, lightness, and balance. There were 3 revisions, or what Mazda calls series, to this chassis during its first generation. The Series 1 were introduced the first 2 years from 1979 to 1980 with the 12A rotary engine. The Series 2 appeared in 1981 to 1983, which received aesthetic and ergonomic changes with a slightly longer body, implementation of a larger fuel tank, 5-speed manual, and optional GSL performance package, which included disc brakes and clutch-type rear-limited slip differential, was also offered. The Series 3 appeared in 1984 to 1985, receiving aesthetic changes, but the most noticeable thing to happen was the introduction of the 13B rotary engine for the GSL SE, which was only offered for the US market. It also included larger brake rotors and stiffer suspension. Other markets did receive special versions like the RX-7 Finale for Australia in 1985 and the Savannah RX-7 Turbo, which used a non-intercooled Turbo 12A for Japan in 1983. The first generation RX-7 was very popular and sold about 80% in the US. Magazines around the world praised its performance, great handling, and fun factor. It also participated in the International Motorsports Association GTU series, in which it dominated. The second generation Mazda RX-7 was introduced in 1985. It drew styling inspiration from the Porsche 944. This generation was thought of as less sporty since it matured from the first generation. The RX-7 was sold as a coupe with optional back seat for various markets and as a convertible. The second generation RX-7 offered many more modern technologies, such as independent rear suspension and better steering with a rack and pinion. Disc brakes were standard and may include 4-piston calipers in some trims. A rear-wheel steering feature and automatically adjustable shock dampening system was also offered. A naturally aspirated 1.3-liter rotary engine was offered as a standard with a Turbo 2 trim that included a twin-scroll turbocharger and air-to-air intercooler. Like previous generations, this one also received revisions, such as a Series 4 from 1986 to 1988 and a Series 5 from 1989 to 1991, which received a power increase. There were special models offered for the second generation RX-7 during its time frame, such as the Infiniti, 10th Anniversary, and GTU to commemorate their dominance in that series. There was also praise from this generation RX-7 from magazines around the world. The third generation RX-7 received an aerodynamic body style and became larger, wider, and curvier. It was more refined, balanced, and had great handling. Aluminum suspension parts were implemented to help reduce weight. It was supplied with a first ever mass-produced sequential twin turbocharged 1.3-liter rotary engine, which used a smaller turbo for low end and transitioned over to a larger turbo for higher RPM operation. Sales were great during its introduction, other than its home country of Japan, since the RX-7 now did not meet dimension regulations, which increased taxes. Like previous generations, it was revised through its decade-long production. The Series 6 from 1992 to 1995 was the most successful worldwide. The Series 7 from 1996 to 1998 received revised ECUs for manual transmission equipped cars, and the RX-7 was only sold in right-hand drive from here on. The Series 8 sold from 1999 to the end of production in 2002 and was only available in the Japanese market. It received aesthetic, ergonomic, cooling, and power upgrades. There were also many special models for this generation throughout its production. The third generation RX-7 was praised for its looks and great handling by magazines and beat performance cars costing much more than it. Unfortunately, like its Japanese counterparts, a weak yen, price increase, niche two-seater market, and transition to much larger family-oriented cars caused the RX-7 to meet its demise in the US in 1993. It continued production elsewhere in the world until 2002. Mazda has since replaced the RX-7 with the RX-8 in 2002. There have also been discussions of bringing back the RX-7 or building another successor, but the problem lies with the rotary engine not being able to meet stricter emission standards, reliability, and projected sales figures. With the return of the GTR, NSX, and Supra, will we be seeing the return of the RX-7 in the next few years? I hope you enjoyed watching the history of the Mazda RX-7. Like if you found this educational, subscribe for future videos, and check out my other videos. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.